Hey there, we're the Westlot Pirates and welcome to the show. We're here to share our thoughts on Northwestern athletics and college sports with thoughts and analysis from the visceral to the statistical. We run our tailgate with the red pirate flag flying high above as we give no quarter, especially the fourth. I'm Sam Walter.
I'm John Lacombe.
And I'm Eric Scuzz, Laissez le bon temps rouler, Scouspo.
Yes, happy Mardi Gras tonight as we record on Tuesday to all who celebrate. I did just get some breaking news here, guys. This is really huge.
Oh, no.
Our hit segment, How Did the Refs Fuck Us This Time, was just been nominated for 2 Edward R. Murrow Awards and a Peabody. So I think by popular demand...
Incredible.
And a Peabody.
And a Peabody.
I think I've heard from the high knees ref alone that he thinks he can get us all the way up to a Pulitzer. So we'll keep working on it.
Lord Almighty.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I got to admit, watching the game last night against UCLA, I'm sitting there thinking, like, are we gonna are we gonna need an emergency pod here, guys? But then, I mean, what a finish! I mean, just even to come back from 16 down with 3 minutes to go to cut it to 1, like, insane finish. Like, talk about heart on this team. I mean, they stuck with it the entire, like, the first half was great, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Second half got out of control, and then huge run at the end. And then, thanks to our good friends, the Zebras, kind of didn't get the chance to, finish off the miraculous comeback. But still, on senior night, to have that kind of effort, by these guys, as snakebit as this season has been, really, really good to see.
Well, it's not a one-off either. We've been talking. I mean, this has been 4 or 5 games in a row now. They brought the heat, and it is. It just makes you love this special group even that much more because of what they've been through this year, and they've never said die. They've never quit. They've never even in the waning minutes of this game.
Yeah,
quitting was I'm not saying that a lot of players out there would have or that I would have. I just it's natural. You get UCLA's leading scorer in foul trouble, and the guy that they bring in to take his place absolutely wrecks you, and then the foul count is just dramatically going against you in the second half. You can't get a call at home, and then for it to finish like just to have the gumption to step up in that last minute and execute like they did and score like they did, and have a shot at the end was incredible. It was just a testament to what we've seen all year from this team.
Right. All year and even the years leading up, right? I mean, this is senior night, and you've got poor Brooks, his career over, crying and as he's being presented and just getting all the pure adulation from Northwestern Nation. Of course, he deserves it. And you're like, oh, man, it's so bad that he can't play in this game. Yeah, but a guy like Brooks or a guy like Matty Nicholson, right, and Ty Berry, you see tonight that it's like what those guys have built over the past couple of years, and the fact that Brooks wasn't out there, but it's everything that Scuzz was just saying. It's like the heart of this team that you've seen for a past couple of seasons, like that just doesn't go away when a couple of guys get hurt, no matter how essential those guys are, because that is the legacy. That's what you've built. We've talked about legacy and culture change ad nauseum over and over and over again. And then there are multiple ways to see that. And one, unfortunately, is for a team that's been nothing but kicked in the nuts this entire season. To put together the stretch that they had. And to have it, I think we were talking 3/4 of the way through this game when it suddenly went sideways, being like, oh my gosh, how, it was almost kind of shocking that it happened, even though it's a very good UCLA team, just because this team, despite being put together with, duct tape and dental floss at this point, has put together this unbelievable, 3.5 game stretch of basketball. And then it all just goes haywire. And how do they respond to it going haywire? They totally dig down and pull themselves all the way back in. And then we got screwed yet again. But yeah, I mean, like that's the overriding thing. I mean, I think the overriding takeaway is, yeah, once like this is another gut punch in a season full of them. But yeah, the character of the team and the character of the way that they did everything that was possible down the stretch to try to win this one.
I think what just stands out to me about that, like, and maybe it's too early to take stock of the season, as it were, but as I think about the shock and surprise of 2022 and making that tournament run, and then building on it with, well, Boo coming back unexpectedly, building on that run with another one in 2023, 24. To find themselves, in the position they're in here at the end of this season with a shot. I mean, I never even thought that would be possible once we got, a little bit into conference play and you started to see, Brooks's injury, et cetera. All the talking going into this game was, well, if the Cats win tonight and if they beat Maryland and win another one in the tournament or maybe two, they can legitimately play themselves onto the bubble, which didn't feel possible. But when you take the 3 years in concert and you look at, we're losing Barry, we're losing Brooks, we're losing Nicholson, but Martinelli is back presumably. KJ Wyndham is a,
I mean,
we're
going to
clear
out. We're clearing out the paint to talk about KJ Wyndham.
Yeah, I mean, he's like an incandescent star, like in the making right now. And then with Sheravino, and you've got talent coming in this next season, a defensive stopper in Mullins that I feel like just gets better and better every time we see him. I mean, like years past, like I remember Vedran Vukusic gets hurt and the bottom falls out of the team.
Mm-hmm.
And TJ Parker transfers suddenly and the bottom falls out of the team. And even, we miss on a point guard the year after McIntosh graduates and the bottom falls out of the team. And just like, there's so many times that like a straw has broken the camel's back. And last year, Barry goes down, Nicholson goes down. This team still makes the dance, still wins their first round game. This year, Brooks goes down. Brooks and Nicholson and Barry are not right to start the season. And then, Leach goes down. And like they're still making noise and the bottom has not fallen out. Like this is a program that is finding it right now.
It is. It's amazing. I mean, it truly, your point about the straw breaking the camel's back, and then this year, like, the camel got hit by a truck.
Yeah.
And kept on ticking. Like,
and right.
And then that camel lifted its head up and spit in somebody's face. I was like,
exactly.
I'm not dead yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I could go for a walk.
It's truly amazing. And right, I think like that's a big part of it. And obviously, the Wyndham piece of this cannot be overstated. Because he's been incandescent for the past 4 or 5 games. And I think it is so obvious to anyone watching the team right now. And again, this is this ridiculous current iteration of this team that is the result of, I mean, again, you've got Barnheiser out, you've got Leach out, you've got Hunger out, right? You've got Clayton, who really wasn't expected to play this season and burned his red shirt, and you have all of these things. And yet, right, like it's, I think the average Northwestern fan is looking at this, but also like looking forward at the same time because we have this massive Ballyhoo recruiting class coming in. You're expecting Nicky Buckets to come back, and Wyndham is just ascending right now. I think it's not just the numbers, but you have a team on a night where Ty Berry on senior night had an awesome game. Great shooting, hit a monster 3 during the comeback, 22 points, and was just all around great. But as this team's currently constituted, anyone who watches for 2 seconds knows KJ Wyndham's the number 2 guy right now. It's Martinelli, and then it's KJ Wyndham. It's not just how many points he's scored over the past 5 games. It's just they obviously run the offense through him. He's the ball-dominant guy. He looks for the ball, he gets the ball, he initiates the offense to the extent that we have someone who can initiate the offense. It's everything that Scuzz has talked about for week after week after week about, like, this is the guy. To the extent that you don't have a true point guard, the closest thing you have is this guy. And he has just only made that more apparent. He continues to not start. It's hard to throw stones at this point because, again, like, Northwestern had a 3-game win streak coming in, during which they basically trailed for no minutes. And, we're leading a great UCLA team on at the half and almost pulled this one off. And that kind of, so it's like, in that sense, hard to question that KJ Wyndham's not starting. I'm sure every other team in the Big Ten is like, why the hell isn't this guy starting? He's Northwestern's second best basketball player. And I think pretty much every Northwestern fan probably agrees at this point.
I know that's a thing, but, like, I mean, whether he's starting or not, he's playing 25 to 30 minutes a game.
Yeah, 28 minutes.
That's what matters.
Like,
right.
The whole, like, starting or not starting, I don't put much stock into that. I mean,
that is a good point, right? Because he's getting massive minutes.
And that's the difference from the beginning of the year when he was playing 2 minutes here, 4 minutes here, disappear for for a stretch of 4 big games. Like that. It was at the beginning, the Big Ten does that beginning of December. They play a couple games, and then there's a couple of non-cons. I think we had the tournament in Arizona, and KJ and Shervino, who had been, part of the rotation and showing some stuff during the early non-con, granted against, like, really, low talent teams, they disappeared for those 4 games, and it just, like, I'm a broke record on this. It just feels like a missed opportunity, and if you had stuck with them then, would the drop off once Leach got hurt or once Brooks got hurt, like, would your rotation and your depth just be that much better earlier? Right.
Sure. I think, but at the end of the day, the fact that it has, I mean, it's not just, like Scuzz was saying, it's not just that the straw is not breaking the camel's back. It's very much that Northwestern fans are looking forward right now and being like, well, damn it, this team's got Martinelli next season, and it's got KJ Wyndham next season, and all of these recruits coming in, and it's a fascinating blend and a fascinating brew. Wyndham is, I mean, we've all seen a full season pretty much of KJ Wyndham at this point. His jump shot is a little janky, but when it's hitting, you don't care.
When you've got Nicky Buckets, are you really really gonna pick nits about a janky looking shot? Come on,
exactly.
John Scherner
online
boys.
Yeah.
This is a great point where it's like, but you're not complaining when he's out there making big plays and getting you nothing but buckets. And Wyndham is a phenomenal athlete. It's for a guy who's not a quote unquote true one, man, does he do some filthy things with the basketball sometimes. Like, I mean, he'll put you on a poster.
He has been doing the Boo Buie celebration after hitting big threes, which like is awesome. And you love it. And he's talked about like how much watching Boo was an inspiration for him and all that stuff. And then he is not Boo Buie. He's again, we've talked about how he's not a true point guard. He's a combo guard. Imagine that he's going to, continue to be on ball a lot, but play off ball a lot as well, right? He's not going to be filling this Boo Buie role in the next couple of years. However, he dropped a little floater in the lane a couple games ago, and then he had an absolute, like a blow-by layup in this game against UCLA, and both those plays were vintage Boo.
Yeah.
And you just love to see it.
Oh, yeah. It's awesome. And I mean, again, it's going to be, we have this Fab Five recruiting class coming in, and it is going to be absolutely fascinating to see the way all of this gels behind Nicky Buckets. And obviously, the first guy at the start of that list is going to be Wyndham, and then you got like guys like Shervino too. I mean, it's all absolutely fascinating. But
to that point though, real quick, because we talked about this when Boo came back and how critical it was to pass that torch and carry the culture forward. And you're seeing with Barry and Nicholson and Brooks being part of this team, like the connective tissue, the continuity from the 5 guys that were the primaries in 22-23 and how that traversed to 23-24 and how that came into this season. And now you've got Martinelli and Mullins and Clayton and Sheravino and Wyndham carrying that forward. And yeah, one of those guys might leave. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But like, that's how you maintain the culture of a program. That's how the bottom doesn't drop out when somebody gets hurt or you lose a player or somebody graduates or whatever. And the era to era movement at Northwestern has been difficult for as long as I've been following this team. And that doesn't mean that it could, like, there will be a down year at some point, folks. I'm like it's going to happen at some point.
I mean, when you look at, the past, couple of years and now compared to this, this is like a down year compared to a couple of years ago. But even so, like when you're 16-14 and that is a down year, that's a really good place to be. That's somewhere that Northwestern hasn't been.
Isn't that nice? Yeah. And my point is just like that, like we have the guys to bring this Fab Five in next year. And it's not a restart.
I was actually thinking about that. That's one of those things where, like, let's say Northwestern swept Maryland on the road. Big ask, but we've beaten them once this season and finished with 8 conference wins. The amount of times in Northwestern history Northwestern's won 8 conference basketball games, even now, is such a small list that it's like the perspective of like, right, there were times when this was not this is all still very new. And the fact that the foundation, the house, I mean, they mentioned it during the broadcast. They're like, the best moments of Northwestern basketball is right now. This is the era. It's like we're in it. A couple things too, relative to the UCLA game, just to not undersell, this isn't like the Jaime Jaquez UCLA tournament team, but this is a very good UCLA team that is loaded with talent. I mean, they were talking about the whole thing about how Adai Mara came off the bench for UCLA and gave us all kinds of problems when Bilodeau came out. Adai Mara's a 5-star recruit. He was one of the biggest recruits in the nation. He doesn't start for UCLA because they're freaking UCLA. All of those guys are monster recruits. And this is the kind of team that Northwestern's matching up with and was throwing haymakers with. And the kind of team that they were talking about that's like, for all of the warts and everything that's gone wrong for Northwestern this season, Northwestern's stacked with quad 1 wins. And, and then
you want to see heart personified?
Yeah.
Go back to, what was it, 4 minutes into the second half when Mara comes in, or 6 minutes in, like Mara's doing his thing, he's tearing things apart, Nicholson takes a seat, and Keenan Fitzmaurice steps up and starts throwing bloody haymakers with a 5-star 7'3" dude. That's heart right there.
Yeah. He was great fit too, right? And the kind of guy who comes in and you're like, yeah, that feels like a Northwestern guy right now. And it's like, it's amazing, like the culture that's been built. Shout out in particular. So Nicky Buckets, a quiet 20 from Nicky Buckets, obviously got screwed at the end in what could have sent him to the line for the winning points of the game, right? I mean, it's horrific to have it end that way, and yet so typical for the season. Everyone really needs to understand, though, that Nicky Buckets is the only thing keeping him out of the Big Ten Player of the Year conversation are events that have nothing to do with him. If Iowa doesn't hit that shot, if we don't absolutely get screwed by Penn State, right? If we don't get screwed in this game, those 3 results alone, if you flip all of those, now Northwestern's 19-11, firmly on the bubble, 10-9 in conference, and Buckets is right in the middle of the Big Ten Player of the Year conversation. That's the only
honestly,
difference.
I think 19-11 with the wins that we had this year, that's
right.
Not even firmly on the bubble. I think that's firmly in.
Yeah, I mean, and those are the margins. And again, none of that has anything to do with Martinelli's performance. I mean, but that's just to show you, we're talking about a guy who's playing at a Big Ten Player of the Year level right now, who's going to be back next season. And for every miserable thing that has happened this season, it has done nothing to dampen the best moments and the foundation that this team is building. And I mean, damn it, this 5 freshman class coming in and a Big Ten Player of the Year candidate and KJ frickin' Wyndham is a hell of a lot more pieces than a lot of other teams have, and is a situation that all but 2 Northwestern basketball teams ever, maybe 3 would give anything to have. So, yeah, and again, we weren't there. We wish we could have been there, but to see Nicholson crying, of course, to see Brooks crying, and just Jalen Leach, like, unbelievable year of contributions for him. But when you're looking at Nicholson and Brooks and Barry and just everything that those guys have meant to this basketball team and the stuff that those guys were part of, I mean, it definitely makes you emotional.
Here's a question for you guys. Can you think of the last time a Northwestern Wildcat has led the Big Ten in scoring?
I'm going to say Billy McKinney.
No, a little more recently than that. But
Yeah.
Not Sherna?
Did Sherna do it one year?
Sherna did it, yeah, in 2011, 2012.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
At 20 points a game. And right now, Martinelli is at leading the conference with 19.9 points per game. 0.2 points ahead of Bryce Williams.
Have any other cats done it recently? I know Esch did not because I think Mateen Cleaves did led the league that year, or somebody else on that Michigan State squad.
Yeah, and I've just been like scrolling back through, I look all the way back to 05-06, and Vedran was second in scoring behind Maurice Ager in 2005.
Vedran might be my all-time favorite NU basketball player.
V squared being second in the Big Ten in scoring is, they should, when they build the monument to the Princeton offense, that ought to be chiseled right on the front of it.
I loved watching that dude play. He was awesome.
But yeah, I mean, this only goes back to 2002. But since then, is Sherna once, and now Nikki with one game to play for us, and a couple more games for Nebraska, I think.
Who was the dude? He played guard. He was a shooting guard. He had these games where he'd go for 30. Craig Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Did Craig Moore ever come close?
No, he had the one game, I think.
He had a couple of games that were massive, but
Yeah.
he wasn't anywhere close to
He didn't have the
leading
consistency?
conference.
Okay.
No.
We were, but yeah, I mean, it's all, I mean, again, I know, like, the season is Northwestern. I mean, we can talk about, I guess, the permutations of the conference tourney, and obviously the Maryland game is still, to be played, but it is. I mean, for a season that has been this freaking miserable, where we have gotten bent over by the Zebras so many times in the most excruciating ways, and all these breaks, like, right, as a Northwestern basketball fan, historically, you should be just miserable and down right now, and instead we're all like, man, like, there's just a lot to look forward to here, and it's like, it feels like you're waving goodbye to a bunch of beloved guys, and at the same time, you're like, there's a lot of excitement and just a lot of stuff that I think we're all stoked about. But I mean, again, I'd look to see us sweep Maryland. I'll take that. That'd be fantastic. Sweep Maryland and let us roll into the Big Ten tournament.
So, I mean, before the pod, John, you and I were trying to figure out, like, are we in, or is it kind of where things are?
I mean, that's so. If USC doesn't win out, we're in. That we know, because we have the game in hand over USC. We played them once, we won, and if we were to lose to Maryland and USC wins one and loses one, which is very likely, they play Washington, the worst team in the conference, and they play UCLA. So a split is very plausible, and if that happens, Northwestern's in regardless. I think Iowa, I don't know how the tiebreaker works. If Iowa wins two, we like the same thing. And if Iowa splits, I don't know how the tiebreaker works there. But I mean, regardless, if Northwestern wins, if we beat Maryland, we're in. There seem to be a lot of permutations. I feel like if you were betting, the overall odds are very strong of us getting in right now, even if we were to fall to Maryland. But I don't think it's like mathematical.
Okay.
But I think the best scenario would be if USC loses either of their final two games. I think we probably have a punch ticket.
I think if Rutgers loses to Minnesota, that's probably helpful.
Right. That's true too. Right. I don't know. Or even, yeah, I don't know. Like, again, there seem to be so many permutations. They actually mentioned it on the broadcast because they talked about that there's some insane potential for some insane tiebreaker for all of the teams to potentially be, to be on the verge of not getting in. And they specifically mentioned the infamous day, what was it, last season or the season before, that Northwestern was playing Rutgers for either second or ninth in the conference on the
Oh
last
yeah,
game of
that
the
was last
season,
year.
and then finished second. So it's kind of a similar situation. It really all stacked up. Washington is firmly down at the bottom, but aside from that, you have potential for like a massive logjam. But as of right now, knock wood, the Cats seem to be in pretty good shape right now. And again, like they could do it in style if they just go out to Maryland and get a win.
If you or a loved one is seriously injured by someone else's negligence, hire Kent Simpson of the Simpson Law Group. After over a decade prosecuting murder cases in Chicago, Simpson opened his own firm focused on wrongful death and personal injury cases. He specializes in car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and other transportation accidents, as well as construction accidents, medical negligence, slip and falls, product liability, and more. Millions recovered for clients, no fee unless he wins. The Simpson Law Group, compassion, empathy, and vigorous advocacy. Go to simpsonlawgroup.com or call 312-332-2107 for a free consultation, and go Cats. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to be, watching with bated breath down, these last couple games, kind of seeing what will turn up. But I think now we should go ahead and turn our attention to the spring sports. Lacrosse was off this week, resting up. They've got game up in Milwaukee coming up this week, and then some big matchups as we have talked about. So they play Marquette and then Penn State, Maryland, North Carolina, boom, boom, boom. So that's Marquette is coming up a little bit later on this week, and then March 16th, March 22nd, March 27th. You got three big ones at home. So that's what's going on in the lacrosse world.
Before we move off of that, just like we'll be talking about a lot more over the next month. But April 17th, we've mentioned it. Circle your calendars. Northwestern's hosting Michigan, and they're hosting it on the lake. And the objective is to break the attendance record for a lacrosse game. So let's go. We're gonna. I'm trying to work out some plans to maybe be in Evanston for that. If you can, it's a weeknight, but if you can make it happen, make it happen.
It's gonna be fun. I mean, watching lacrosse in the temporary stadium is gonna be really, really cool.
And it's a big ass game too.
It's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge. I mean that's been Big Ten championships have been that was the title game last year, right? In the Big Ten championship game against Michigan.
Yep. It's a huge deal. And again, we'll keep beating the drum on it, but it's, that's one, again, all of you circle your calendars. You want to get out for that. You want to be a part of that. It's going to be a big thing.
Yeah. So turning our attention now to the Diamond, softball had a big series out in Louisville. They lost the opener to Central Michigan, got a couple huge wins over Longwood, and then just an absolute gem against Louisville. They had one game canceled on that Saturday night against Louisville, but then played them on Sunday. 5-1. Welcome back to the circle, Lauren Boyd. Oh wow.
Yeah, the potential power, right, of a single game to change the narrative. This has obviously been a little bit of a star-crossed season for the Cats this year, and we talked about it a bunch on the last pod. And the CMU game at the start of the weekend certainly did nothing to throw water on that. I mean, that was not in any way. That's not a good Central Michigan team. So it's a MAC team and not good. That's a bad loss. And then Longwood is another bad team. The Cats really got the bats going. They'll beat them. Louisville is in every way a very good team. This was a huge game. This is, that's a Louisville team that was 14-5 coming into that game. And the Cats just showed up, and you had some great performances at the plate. I mean, Kelsey had a great game. Kaylee Avasado continues to be great. Izzy Kania also did really well. But yeah, it's Boyd. And 7 innings, 11 Ks, through 2 walks. Just like Sam said, an absolute gem. And the background of all of that, as we've talked about, is that, I mean, we're kind of thinking about it. I mean, you're talking about all of those Danielle Williams years, and then Ashley Miller coming in, and immediately, Northwestern blessed to have one of the best Big Ten pitchers in the year, arguably the best pitcher in the Big Ten for another year in a row. And then that's the thing. I mean, that's what Boyd is stepping in as the ace and following really 5-6 years of that. And Boyd's an awesome pitcher, but it's a heck of a lot of pressure to follow all that and be like, you're the number one. And, we've talked about on the pod, she's kind of been looking to find her footing, and she was just on. This is a really good team, and she was just phenomenal. And if you watch all the highlights, her reactions, the reactions of the team, like you can see in the moment, everyone realized what was going on. Everyone realized how big of a deal it was for their ace to be dealing like that. And, again, you hope. This is a team that could, a spark could really do a lot for, and Boyd might have given him that.
Well, I think getting the bats going against Longwood was critical. Now this team has 3 wins in a row, and I think what's important is it wasn't just Boyd against Louisville. The Cats put up 5 runs. I mean, think about last year and all those Ashley Miller gems where we won 1-0 or 2-1.
Oh, it's a great point.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
To get both the bats going and a gem from the pitching staff is like rocket fuel for this team. And there's a big, massive series coming up next weekend, like Big Ten play starts. They're the Cats are going to Oklahoma City. There's kind of a special Big Ten showcase there. State of the art facilities. Oklahoma, the epicenter of college softball, as it were. And they're playing Michigan State and Penn State, 2-game series to kick off conference play. It's going to be a bit of a showcase, but this is the momentum that they needed coming into conference season. We talked about it last week. Like this is where the team has hardware to play for and defend. So let's go.
Yeah, I think the single biggest thing is Kansas. Like we're waiting on Kansas, right? I mean, it's like she's Northwestern's offensive star, and thanks to Kaylee Avasado's coming in absolutely scorching and the awesome return of Grace Nito, it's helped to lessen the blow. But Kansas is hitting .214 right now, more strikeouts than hits. Again, like this is Kansas we're talking about. Like she's going to turn it around, but the Cats need it to happen as soon as possible.
And then as far as baseball goes, we were talking about how, road trip down to Duke to if we could pull out one or 2 of those would be huge. Didn't work out the way we wanted. Couple big losses to the Blue Devils, but the middle game.
So close. So flippin' close. Right. I mean, it's for a sport that has so many games, it is amazing how tight the margins can be in certain moments like this. Because Northwestern had 2 outs in the top of the 9th, down 1 run with runners on 2nd and 3rd, and a hit there puts the Cats up and very possibly takes the Cats, suddenly the Cats have a win over the number 17 team in the nation and are 6-4 instead of 5-5. I mean, it was that tight. The other 2 games were blowouts, but you know what? Like we've talked about, like that's not the where we're operating with this team right now. No one's crying over a blowout loss to a ranked team. It's all about like taking these huge steps, and this is a team that clearly is taking those steps. And man, that win would have been big, but they were right there.
I mean, we played Duke last year. Duke's a good program.
Yeah.
They swept us last year. I think arguably you could say we were a bit closer this year than last year. We had a 2-0 loss, and then got smoked a couple times. Notably, in the first game against Duke, it ended up being a 14-5 loss, but the Cats, I think, scored 2 runs to take the lead in the 5th inning. So midway through that game, they were right in the mix there, and then just had a bad inning on the other end against a really strong team. But these are the baby steps to see this baseball squad improve on what was a solid showing last year and to build some momentum. And we'll see how they can do that going forward. They have a bunch of winnable games. I mean, there's nobody. Duke was the biggest squad on this schedule. They've got the Citadel for 4 this upcoming weekend, Illinois State, and then they get into conference play with Penn State. And Illinois, I think, is pretty good, but there's a lot of opportunity for this team to improve on last year. And we've seen bits and pieces through the opening. What is this? 10 games now,
right?
And hopefully we can see them build on that.
Right. I mean, it's like you want to knock wood, but it feels like a solid Big Ten baseball team. That's what it feels like right now. They got a lot of guys who can hit and a lot of guys who can pitch.
Yeah, it's wild to think about. And like, because you mentioned the Citadel is, this weekend. The following weekend, we're playing at home. That Illinois State, those Penn State games, we're talking early to mid-March in Evanston. We're playing home games. Now, I've bundled up at Wrigley Field for early April games, plenty. This is mid-March, so head out.
March 26th was the home opener last year for those counting at home.
Wow, so this is a couple weeks earlier. Yeah, bring a jacket, maybe 2, some hot chocolate.
Oh, I'm wrong. We played Illinois State on February 27th last year at home.
Wait, what?
Lord Almighty!
Woo. Okay, well then.
Yeah, I mean, again,
still,
exactly.
Conference play in mid-March.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like this is a team we're talking about. Like, again, a lot of guys who can hit. This team had 11 hits against Duke. Out-hit Duke 11-8 in that second game. Now, again, the other 2 games went sideways, but this is a very good Duke team that we're talking about here. And you're looking at the way that these guys are raking right now. And again, it's like we've talked about, like Preston Knott, like Markinson, Lausch, obviously, like we've talked about Jackson Freeman, like these guys can hit. Like, and again, you're looking at a situation like this and looking at this Duke series and being like, look, all right, okay. Like we're talking about Big Ten baseball here. We're not talking about SEC baseball. Like this feels like a team that can give as good as they get when we get into conference play. We're going to find out, but that's what it feels like right now.
Anything else to mention before we get out of here tonight, guys?
Spring practice for football has officially started up, right? So we've got
that's right.
We've got that started, and obviously, I know there's a ton of you, and you fold us right into this too. Where after transfer palooza, there, I don't even know what second place would be for the most incendiary football transfer season ever. It's you fold that in, and suddenly, I think there's a lot of excitement for people to see. All right, all these guys get in the building, at the field house and seeing kind of how this new team is constituted, and we're gonna start to pick up some tidbits from that as the spring goes along. But yeah, certainly something that we're definitely keeping an eye on. But there's a lot more to go down the road on that.
Do you know if they're having an open practice? I mean, I feel like the spring game is done. Like spring games, I think in general are going out the window. I'm seeing a bunch of other teams canceling spring games. But do you know if there's that open practice?
I don't. Last year there was one, out on the lake, and it was a great time. Like, I mean, I was out there for that. And again, I mean, it was at the time, and this is one of the big changes, like, because of the portal and because of how different things were and Northwestern's kind of late start, offensive line alone, like the offensive line as it existed by the start of next season was so unconstituted in the spring that it was hard to even tell what the team was from what was going on. But it was certainly fun to be out there and see all the guys and everything. I assume that they're probably going to be doing that this season, but yeah, when we get the full details on it, we can let everyone know.
Yeah, I mean, football. It just it never ends.
Yeah.
Right. Right. It really is a year round thing. So, With that, I guess we'll go ahead and leave it there for tonight. Head to our website, westlawpirates.com. We can leave comments and questions. Find us on Facebook, Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all at Westlaw Pirates. You can always email the show, westlawpirates@gmail.com. Tune in next time as we give our visceral and statistical views on Northwestern athletics. And look for us in the west lot of Ryan Field flying the red pirate flag, because we give no quarter, especially the fourth. For John Lacombe and Eric Scousby, I'm Sam Walter. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.